Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how I changed the wheel bearing on my 2005 Toyota Corolla. My name is Jeremy, this is Regen Automotive, and let's get to work. Before we jump into it, I'll go over the symptoms I was having which indicated me to change the wheel bearing. So first and foremost, I had quite a loud humming noise when I was inside the car. You can already hear the humming, and yeah, you can just hear how it's getting substantially worse as I get up to highway speed. I'm at 80. Yeah, you just hear that humming. It's bad. I've been letting it go for too long. Bass in the car, audibly it sounds like it's coming from the right rear, so that's the one I'm going to replace. I'm going to double check. We'll double check both sides, and we'll see which bearing. Hopefully one of them exhibits like a noise once you jack it up and spin the tire, but yeah, I'm pretty sure, like I said, it's been going on for quite a while, and it's pretty bad. Like, you can barely hear me in here when I'm talking, going 100 kilometers an hour, so I'm pretty sure it's the right rear, so we're going to replace that bearing. So, I have the right side jacked up, and as suspected, she's making quite a bit of noise. You can just hear the bearing just crunching there. Luckily, I didn't have any play on this wheel, so it wasn't getting too dangerous, but that's just that humming noise that we were hearing when we were going at speed. For fun, we'll compare it to the left side. Hopefully that's not making any noise because I don't want to do both, but it's possible that this one's so loud it's overpowering the left side, but we'll check the left side to see how it sounds. Our left side is making a bit of noise too. Doesn't quite sound like bearing noise to me. It could be the drum shoe touching the drum. I'll spin it and let you guys decide. Could be bearing, but regardless, the right side, as we heard, is substantially worse. So I'm going to replace that, and then I'll take the car for a drive and see if I can hear this bearing make a noise. If that's the case, then I guess I'll have to replace it. So first, jack up the car and properly support it on a jack stand. I can't stress that enough. Never work on a suspended car when it's not supported by a jack stand. Once you have that done, we'll take off the 5 19mm lug nuts to get the wheel off. Once you have the wheel off, your model of Corolla could have rear brake discs. So if you have rear brake discs, you'll have to take off, you'll have your caliper, usually that's 2 bolts. Take the caliper off, and then you'll have the caliper bracket, which is another 2 bigger, heavier bolts. And then you'll have to take the disc off. Sometimes they have like a little holding set screw. Be careful not to strip that when you take that off. Take your disc off, and then you'll have your wheel bearing exposed. In our case, we're going to have to get the drum off, and then we'll have to take apart the drum brakes to get the wheel bearing off. And if your drum or disc is fighting you like mine is, you'll have to pound it with a hammer until it comes off. As you saw, just a couple good smacks on the drum face and that drum came right off. We actually may be lucky here. Yeah, you can hear that bearing noise. We may be lucky here. It looks like there's enough room to get the wheel hub. Oh yeah, that's also another thing that I really like about this car. I didn't believe it when I was looking at the listing for the part, is that I thought I'd have to take the whole spindle off and press the bearing in and out because it's like an economy car or whatever. But it actually has a whole hub assembly, so that makes it so much easier. Like I love doing these wheel bearings where it's a hub assembly where we have the 4 bolts behind to take it off, versus the like this spindle assembly where you have to take the whole spindle out and take it to the shop to get pressed out. But with that being said, I think we're going to get lucky. We're going to take our 4 bolts off for the hub from the rear, and it looks like there's not too much interference with the brake components here, and it doesn't look like the brake components are integrated into the hub, so it should just come right out, which would be really awesome design by Toyota if they made it that way. Let's find out. So you see my new hub assembly. I'm just going to kind of show you what's going on here before I take everything apart. I double checked. It really does look like we're going to be able to get that hub out without taking any of those brake shoes apart, which is really nice. So right now I'm going to work on getting, there's 4 bolts on the back side of the spindle there, I guess, or flange, whatever you want to call it. I'll state the size in a sec here, so I'm just going to take these 4 bolts off, and then we will work on getting the old hub assembly out of the spindle. So much to my surprise, I thought they'd be bigger bolts, but I guess this is a relatively small car. It's a 12mm head bolt, so 4 12mm head bolts on the back of our spindle here that I'm taking out to get that hub out. So there's one bolt. Yeah, I guess it is a bigger thread, and they step it down to that 12mm hex head. So yeah, there's one bolt. Like I said, we're going to remove all 4. So far mine haven't been too seized, and I live in a relatively rusty climate. So hopefully you have the same luck with yours. I had to put an extension on my ratchet for the bottom 2 bolts to get the socket to properly seat on the bolt. So make sure, it's a little dark back there, so make sure your socket's properly seated on the bolts because you do not want to strip them. That is not a fun time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, you guys. If you want more DIY videos, then I have lots of cool stuff on the way, like a project car I'm about to reveal. And then I also just picked up a cheap, is that big block? I guess old big block V8 engine that I'm going to rebuild. So stick around for that. Okay, so here's where the fun begins. If you've done wheel bearings on cars, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Usually these bearings or the hubs are seized into the spindle, so I'm praying that this comes off relatively easy. This is a slide hammer set, it's called, or it's slide hammer pulling set. I got mine on Amazon, is relatively cheap, is like 70 bucks or something. Normally if you go to part stores, you can rent these. My local part stores rent them for free. They were all rented out when I was doing this job. It's relatively cheap on Amazon. I've been doing this long enough, I figured I'd just get the tool. So you can get this tool. I've also seen guys, hit the hub with a hammer and just kind of bang it out or hit it from behind. Well, this one you can't hit from behind. Well, I guess you could actually. We'll see. Anyway, we'll see how the slide hammer works. This is what most guys use. It's what it's made for. So let's see how this works for us. So, as about expected, that sucked, as you saw from the video. What ended up working is I put a bunch of heat into it. I don't know if the heat did the trick, but bashing it with the hammer does. And if you watch my Yukon video where the wheel bearing actually catastrophically failed on that thing, that was the same thing that worked for me, is bashing with a hammer. But if you do, just be careful. I actually clipped the master cylinder there. So I have to put the tab back in there, and then I'll double check everything, make sure it's all good. So just take extra caution if you're going to bash it like with a hammer like I did. So now we're going to clean out the inner hub here with a chisel, just kind of scrape away some of the loose rust and metal and stuff, and then wire brush just clean up the finer stuff. And then I'm going to coat it with anti-seize too to make it easier for the next guy if this job ever has to be done again. So you'll notice when you go to put in the new bearing, there's only one way it can go in. Kind of looks like a little star or triangle, trapezoid shape, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, the wider bolt face, or the wider 2 holes go on the top, narrower on the bottom. So I cleaned up the hub flange, or the wheel bearing hub mounting bolts, and then I'm going to put a little anti-seize on them. I found it was easiest to start this bolt first, because you can see the bolt go through the brake shield there, and then you can see it through the threads. So put the bolt through and then just kind of rotate the back of the hub face there until it lines up the bolt, and then you can start to thread it in, and then the other 3 bolts should be relatively easy once you get that one. So once you get all your bolts installed, torque it to this many foot-pounds. Okay, so I got my brake all back together. Like I said, be extra careful when you're hammering. Do not hit the brake like I did. But anyway, once you have that all, once you have the bearing in and torqued up, put your brakes back together and your wheel back on, and the job is done. Once you have we'll first install the wheel and then tighten up the lug nuts, not super tight. And then once you get the wheel back on the ground, torque your wheel to 76 foot-pounds. Alright guys, that's my video on how to replace the rear wheel bearing on this 2005 Toyota Corolla. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks for watching.